It is with great pleasure that I introduce now our artist in residence next season, Mitsuko Uchida. Mitsuko, what a pleasure it is to have you with us now and especially in March of 2024.
I look forward very much, and now I started thinking what else I could do for you.
What an extraordinary honor it is to have you. Those who were in the audience for your recital back in 2014, as well as your performance with the Mahler Chamber Orchestra in Zellerbach Hall in March of 21, will be extraordinarily excited, as will those who hadn't yet made it to either. But to be able to see two sides of you, especially in what have become very important artistic collaborations to you, is very meaningful, and extremely meaningful that you have chosen Berkeley as the place at which to display those. So I wanted to ask you, first of all, about your partnership with the Mahler Chamber Orchestra.
Well, it started one day slowly, but it still sounds funny to say one day slowly. I thought I wanted to do some Mozart concerti with a chamber orchestra, and I have heard good things about Mahler, and I heard some performance of actually very good one. I thought, okay, I try to ask them. And in my life, it has been very often that I ask somebody, and not that somebody asked me to do. So this was one of them, and they said yes. And we started quietly in Spain somewhere like Alicante. We rehearsed for days on end, and which was very nice. And I realized their commitment and love of music, but also commitment of wanting to play together with somebody who was, I just floated in, but who was a newcomer and was quite amazing. And I still think so when I sit with them, I get together with them. And of course, by now we are a family. I feel I came home. And we start at the beginning is a little bit edgy, and this is sticking out, and that edge is sticking out. But in no time, we are back to somewhere where we were, and then we develop from there. Each time, every concert, we repeat concerts, but we play, and that there is. All I can say is that is the commitment plus their love for the music. For example, yes, and I really feel that when we get together, and I even as if there are new people or not, but we say hello to each other, but every single one, and the one who hasn't been there for 4 years, 5 years, of course I remember how these people played. You see, so it is an event that everyone, for everybody, it is so important to play this concert. So. And this is the starting point, and that is the best starting point for any group.
And I mean, I'm always interested that you often come back to repertoire that means a great deal to you, and this is the fact that the Mozart concerti have been part of your not just your repertoire, but your vocabulary for decades now.
Yes, and so long that I don't even want to talk about it. But I mean, seriously, as real repertoire of my life as such, 40 years. But beforehand, I collected them one by one for quite a long time. So it took me a long time for every music, but the one that stayed are Mozart, Schubert, and Beethoven. And Bach always hiding in the background because I feel still so inferior towards Bach.
Let's talk for a moment about one of your other concert, which represents a different partnership. Also, I don't want to say a new partnership because you and Mark Padmore have been working together for a while, but
quite a while. But it is new-ish compared to some people who were in the past that I worked with. But still, it's sort of 5-6 years, something like that. Yeah. But it was like, as I described, I walked up to him and said, "Can I not work with you?" And he said, but he didn't say, "Why not?" That was somebody else. But he said, "Oh, he was friendly, let's put it that way." And it started like that, and then we probably ran through the Winterreise, and then the Winterreise, something. So without much prospect of concerts, and we didn't talk about concerts. We just worked, and I adored him anyway from the start for a long time before I approached him. And why I approached him is probably when I heard Heine Lieder of Schumann.
Mm-hmm.
And because I felt I never really understood them and how he sang it, I felt as if I got it finally. So the next concert he was playing in London, he was singing in London in the Wigmore Hall. I just went and I walked and I just they let me in at the end. So then I cornered him. So it started.
Well, it definitely seems like that sort of partnership. You mentioned something that a moment ago that has been a theme, something that I see when I come to visit you in Vermont every summer. But the role that young people, that young performers, that young thinkers play in your life. And here we are on the campus of UC Berkeley, one of the great public universities of the world. And I wondered if you could speak to what they give you.
Well, the young people give me a lot of things, but among them, there are lots of misunderstandings, the same misunderstandings or similar misunderstandings as I was having.
Mm-hmm.
And it is, but purely when you are making music, somebody plays in a wrong way very beautifully. I love it. And I want to try to make it into something that is true. And for that, I sort of mix and give and push, and then they push back, I hope. But what makes it also so refreshing is that carelessness in life, that you can they haven't done all of these awful things, and they think, but they haven't. Freshness of ideas that you have never thought of, or that you have forgotten to think that way. That confronts you all the time, and also having to live with the community, with the ideas of other people, and the young ones who have to still develop. But the point is, I am constantly developing. If you stop developing, that is the end, is what I think. So therefore, it is fantastic communication that you have, and that I really, really love. And I learned probably in Marlborough that by giving something, the giving actually gives me more than if I took from somebody. And that is such an enriching sort of situation. You have given, and it is not for just it that hasn't dropped. You have given, and then something happens to you as well. So that's all I can explain as relationships with people.
And something a comment you actually just made a few minutes ago about what we as the audience perceive as empty space, before a performance begins. there is silence from our perspective. But what does that mean? What's going on with you?
I am catching that moment of silence that I can step into. You don't just step, boom, and play. I try to catch that, gather that silence. Sometimes it's here, sometimes it's somewhere else. Some music you have to just throw in out. But a lot of the time, I'm waiting for that silence.
Well, thank you for making the time for this interview, and most importantly, thank you for making the time to come spend so much time with us next March.
But I have to thank you for giving me that time and for the invitation.